Bill Bright has been one of the most influential Christian leaders of our generation. The ministry that Bill Bright and Vonette started at UCLA in 1951 was called Campus Crusade for Christ and is now active in 190 countries and consists of 26,000 staff members and an additional 500,000 trained volunteers who are deployed on campuses and in various settings around the world. The Jesus film that Campus Crusade has done has been seen by more than 5 billion people to date. And the I Found It campaign, which swept the globe in 1975, brought millions more to Christ. Bill Bright has written over 100 books, and his last one that he wrote is monumental. It's called The Journey Home. He knew it was his last one. He was slowly and painfully losing his battle with a debilitating illness called pulmonary fibrosis. This is how his physicians told him he would soon leave this earth. Bill said he sat me down one day, Vonette and me, in his office and said, "You don't seem to realize what's happening to you. You're dying. It's worse than cancer. It's worse than heart trouble. We can deal with these in some measure, but nobody can help you with pulmonary fibrosis. You're going to die a miserable death. You need to get your head out of the sand and be prepared for it." So Bill said, I said to him, "Well, praise the Lord. I'll see the Lord sooner than I planned." Bill Bright quoted American poet in his book, W.H. Auden, who said, "Death is the sound of distant thunder at a picnic." Think about it. While everyone is eating and enjoying the day, we all know that there is an end. One Puritan writer said, if you attempt to talk with a dying man about sports or business, he's no longer interested. He now sees other things as more important. People who are dying recognize that we often forget that we are standing on the brink of another world. Welcome to the 260 Journey. 2 Timothy is the Apostle Paul's long journey home book. This is number 14 of Paul's letters. It's Paul's last one. And it's an investment into leaders, and more specifically, young leaders. Timothy is a young pastor, and Paul is writing his last epistle, and his challenge to him as a leader is priceless. He's giving Timothy a charge as an aged leader to a young leader in 2 Timothy 2. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said, the task of the leader is to get people from where they are to where they have never been. Paul is about to give Timothy that charge. Here are his words as he's writing his final chapters. It's verses 4 through 6. No soldier in active service entangles himself in the affairs of everyday life, so that he may please the one who enlisted him as a soldier. Also, if anyone competes as an athlete, he doesn't win the prize unless he competes according to the rules. The hardworking farmer ought to be the first to receive his share of crops. See, Paul gives Timothy an amazing challenge as a leader and uses 3 images: a soldier, an athlete, and a farmer. Listen to his words to the young leader. With these images, Paul begins to specify how important and inherent in each of them has for Timothy's leadership. He's telling the young leader to be effective. So he says this: be a soldier. If you're in active service, you don't entangle yourself in the affairs of everyday life. Or as one version says, for every soldier called to active duty divorces himself from the distractions of the world. He says, I want you to be an athlete. You need to compete by the rules. And finally, be a farmer. He's referred to as the hardworking farmer. What Paul was saying to those who want to be a leader, he says this: if you want to be a leader, let me tell you about a soldier. He sees the big picture. He's not distracted by minutia, but he is in it to please the one who enlisted him. The soldier lives a life for his general and not for the men in the barracks. If you want to be a leader, you need to be an athlete. There are no shortcuts to winning. Paul is saying the prize is for those who keep the rules. With so much performance-enhancing drugs hitting professional sports today, it's a perfect example of trying to cut corners to win. Winning in the Christian life has no shortcuts. It may be a longer path and journey, but God is doing something in your training. And finally, he says, if you want to be a leader, it's going to be like a farmer. Hard work gets results. Paul calls the farmer hardworking and tells us that the fruit of his labor is inevitable. A crop comes because of his commitment to that field. See, in God's kingdom, it seems God gives promises, but they're not automatic. God gives the children of Israel the promised land, but Joshua has to fight for it for 7 years. Just because it's a promise doesn't mean that it's automatic. Leadership calls for those who see the bigger picture, those who don't take shortcuts, and those who are willing to work hard. One of my favorite writers is a man named W.H. Griffith Thomas. What he would tell young preachers is priceless. Listen to his words. Think yourself empty, read yourself full, write yourself clear, and pray yourself keen, and then enter the pulpit and let yourself go. That's what Paul did for young Timothy. Thanks for joining the 260 Journey.